Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Okay, please join me in welcoming our speaker tonight, Keith.
Hello everybody, I'm an alcoholic. My name's Keith. The most important thing that I can tell you is it hadn't been necessary for me to take a drink or do any kind of narcotic since May 11th, 1976, and for that I'm especially grateful. I want to thank you for inviting me back up here. I live in Orange County, and it's always good to have a little road trip. I want to thank my friend Paul and his wife Tanis for riding up here tonight with my wife and I. My wife's with me. We've been together 45 years, and that's not because I always wanted to be married. It's because she doesn't believe in divorce. Homicide, but not divorce. She's my present wife, and so we're buddies. We do things together. She's got 28 and a half years, almost 20 next month, will be 29 years in Al-Anon without a day off or any kind of vacation. In order to live with me, she has to go to 3 or 4 Al-Anon meetings a week, and that's not too much for her to do, and I'm grateful. I was born in Texas. That doesn't necessarily make you an alcoholic, but it will give you some characteristics, I'm sure. And so that you know the difference between a Texas tale and a fairy tale, I'll let you know a fairy tale starts out once upon a time, and a Texas tale starts out, you're probably not going to believe this shit, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I don't know if I was an alcoholic when I was born, but when I had my first drink, an alcoholic was born. And had my first drink at an early age. I grew up in the Texas-Oklahoma Panhandle where the men are men and the sheep run scared. My dad was an alcoholic, his dad was an alcoholic, his dad was an alcoholic, and his dad was an alcoholic, and that's as far as I wanted to check it. I don't tell you that because it's part of my resume, but I can assure you that in my case, in my family, by the time the trickle down came to me, well, I was the best, worst example the family ever had. And I have a daughter and a granddaughter who are not alcoholic as far as they know, and I would hope to, if there's anything that I can possibly do by staying sober and doing something in Alcoholics Anonymous night, just maybe the chain is broken. Just maybe the chain is broken. And my daughter's 42 years old, and she has 28 and a half years and came up through Alateen and Al-Anon without a day off or any vacation. And I'm very grateful for that. I'm still the alcoholic that she goes to meetings for as an Al-Anon, same way with my wife. So I set a good example. I started drinking at an early age. I grew up where the Baptists bought all the liquor license, and so we had home brew and moonshine. There wasn't no foo-foos or little umbrellas floating around in there, some dead flies and some bugs. And you take a drink of that stuff, it looked like white gasoline. And I started drinking that at a really early age, and things started happening in my life, and I started getting in trouble. I went places. I was a hyperactive child. My uncle was a doctor, so they gave me speed, and they thought even back then that that would do. I don't know why they give somebody who has an abundance of energy speed, but I had an acquired taste. It was like going 190 miles an hour with your feet nailed to the floor, so I did that. It enhanced my drinking, really. And I'm a pig. I don't identify with anybody that's specialized. If you're a specialist, that's fine. You can fit in Alcoholics Anonymous. There's stories in the book for you. And but in the third edition, there's 40-some stories, and 17 of them talk about substance other than alcohol. So, you know, if you're a hope to die dope fiend, you could fit in here. You know, it's possible. I don't know. I was a hope to die dope fiend, and then I got drunk and went to AA. So I basically used to drink a little beer and think I ought to do something, smoke a little weed and fantasize how I was going to do it, shoot a little speed so I'd have the strength to do it, snort a little coke so I could do what I wanted to do, drink a little whiskey and forget what the hell it was I was going to do. The only thing I've never knowingly or willingly had is a pap smear. But I was a blackout drinker, and I drank with people who would have given me one, so you never know. But I drank and went places, and growing up in the part of the country I grew up in, you could get a driver's license when you were 12, and a farm permit, and I got a farm permit. I had my own car when I was 12 years old, and I covered a lot of territory. Consequently, drinking and driving at 12 and a half years old, had a hit and run with bodily injury, and I left the scene of the accident, and I was arrested for that and locked up to what would be equivalent to, I guess, a senior in high school. I was locked up. Wasn't any big deal penitentiary or anything, you know, but they had barbed wire around it and had people run the place, and you know, they kept an eye on us, and they had severe punishment for anything that you did. And you knew there were consequences for it. And I learned a lot of things in that environment, and I learned a lot of things during that period of my life. It wasn't all bad. And I look back on that today, and I know that I functioned the best whenever I had a most rigid environment. And you let me loose, and you know, I always thought I was free, but I wasn't. I was just loose. And when I got out of there at equivalent to high school, 16 and a half years old, I'd been married already. I got out, and some little girl came up to the fence and said if I'd marry her, she could stay in the country. And so I married her and said she'd come back later and give me favors, but I never saw her again. But I thought about her a lot, you know. Some guy showed up in a suit and had some papers, and, you know, I signed them. And I guess that was the beginning of my abandonment issues. I don't know. You know. But anyway, I got out of there, and my grandmother told me it doesn't take any more effort to marry a rich woman than it does to marry a poor woman, and my grandmother was very wise. She just didn't tell me it took more effort to keep a rich woman than it does a poor woman. So I married this little gal. Her dad was one of the 10 richest men in the country, and had a lot of money, and I was enhancing my income by transporting some outside issues, and I was in Fort Worth, Texas, and back then, if you got caught with any marijuana, why, it was 25 to life, and I didn't care because I wasn't going to live that long. So I got caught in a hit and run with bodily injury, leaving the scene of the accident in a car that had some burlap bags in the trunk, and I stole the car. I didn't really know what it had in the trunk, didn't care, but that's what it had in the trunk. Anyway, I had this accident, and I got busted, and I got thrown in jail, and my father-in-law come to see me, and I thought he was going to bail me out, and he said, I have a lot of money, and I knew that. And he said, the reason I have a lot of money is because I don't make bad investments, and you're a bad investment. And so, therefore, I got to go to Huntsville Penitentiary and start some more abandonment issues. And I'd only been out for a year or less, and anyway, I got annulled and thrown away, and I went to prison and did my time. And back then, they didn't have all the little, schools like anger management and manage your medication and, enhance your GED and all that shit. You just had to do your time. Keep your butt against the wall, and it don't make no difference whether you're pitching or catching. You're still playing ball, baby. Love the one you're with. But, in case you're questioning your sexuality, I got all that straightened out, and I went back home because that's what I do. And my two very best friends, Oily and Goose, picked me up at the train station, and had $100 and a new suit, and I was drunk, and they'd been waiting on me for a couple of days and drinking moonshine, and we got a push start and headed for a dance, and went down on where they had a dance, and it was midnight, and I walked in, and I wanted everybody to know I was back home, so I started to fight. And the fight got out of hand, and I may be sick, but I'm not stupid. And I ducked into the woman's restroom because it looked like I was going to get my helmet bratted, and as I ducked into the woman's restroom to hide while there was a lady standing there, and I said, tell me if when the fight's over, and I went in and hid. Pretty soon she stuck her head in and said, you can come out now, cowboy, and I came out, and band was playing. She was handy. I asked her to dance. I'm a quick study. I found out she had a job, a car, a place to stay, money in the bank, driver's license, none of which did I have. And I said, let me stick with me, baby, and I'll take you places you've never been before. And here we are at the Marina Club. Yeah. This is a step up, baby, let me tell you. I guarantee you. You know, she said, where you been? I haven't seen you around. I said, where you been? I haven't seen you around. She said, well, I just got out of an unwed mother's home. And I said, I just got out of the penitentiary. And I said, hell, we deserve each other. Let's go together and give two people a break, you know. We did. And we dated for a couple of years because I didn't want to rush into anything. And she got pregnant and said I was the father. I don't remember that. I must have been passing over the invisible line when that happened. But at any rate, we got married and had a little girl, and you know, one thing led to another. People were always trying to, you know, keep me hid out somewhere, or putting me someplace, and eventually I got into a lot of trouble. And I know when it's time to go, and I loaded up all my stuff and my family and my 120-pound German Shepherd dog and the Easter Bunny that had ringworm and our old station wagon, and headed for California because my very best friend, Lion Shorty, told me I could get a job on a ranch 40 miles west of Long Beach. And oh, ye of little faith. And I didn't care. I left Oklahoma City one day, and it took me 30 days to get to Los Angeles. Most people can do it in 3, but I was lost a lot. And when we got here, everybody was crazy. I was drunk, loaded, and I got busted just as soon as I came into California because I'd knocked the mirror off the right side of the car, and she was hanging out the window. You know, she was my human rearview mirror. And they busted me and said, we don't have human rearview mirrors, you know. It's the only way I can keep her shut up. And the dog was crazy, the kid was crazy. I contacted a drunken uncle, and he got me a house. Nobody lived in for a couple of years, and motorcycle gang lived next door to me on one side, and a bunch of hippies. Now, I ain't never seen no hippies back there. I mean, this is like in the 60s, you know. That's some real shit there, you know. But you know, hey, I make friends, you know. I went right over there and dropped some acid and went to see 2001, you know, step up. But it was just, you know, wherever I go, there I am, and I'm the first one to get there. And I promise you it'll be better, and it's damn sure is. And I just set out a life of just absolutely insane life once I hit California and started doing all that stuff. And I'd made all the promises it's going to be better and everything else. And I'd go off and be gone. I'd come home, and I'm one of them guys that bring all my friends home. You know, the ones that don't want to go home and fight with their wife, they all come over and watch me fight with mine. I'll tell you something about me and that lady sitting right up here. We're both very violent, very, very violent. I'm not talking about a temper tantrum. I'm talking about bloodthirsty goddamn bullshit. Foreplay. We used to beat the hell out of each other and call it foreplay. And well-meaning people would step in, and we just beat the hell out of them, go make love, you know. It's insane. It was like a battle zone. It was like a combat zone. I carried guns all the time, and she carried a 12-inch butcher knife, and you know, I'd come home and you know, set the door off the hinges because it kicked off. You always just set it back up, and she'd stick a butcher knife right in my stomach, and I'd put my gun right on the end of her nose, and she'd say, "You go first." And I'd say, "You're crazy. If I shoot you, you'll die." She said, "I know, but the bullet will knock me backwards, my arm will go out, and you'll die too." You know, sick women don't have to train for that. They don't need boot camp for that kind of stuff. They intuitively know. And I passed out on her one time, 15 minutes into a 2-hour conversation, and she didn't like that, so she stabbed me all over my back. And when I came to, when my shirt was all stuck to my back, and I said, "God, something's wrong with my back." She said, "Oh, let me see." And she said, "Oh, you've been drinking rock guff whiskey, and you broke out with acne of the backs." And she peeled my shirt off and went and got the rubbing alcohol and poured rubbing alcohol over me. That got me closer to Jesus than the Baptist did. But I lived through it. And it just, it always gets worse. It never gets better. It gets worse and worse and worse. And what used to cost me $50, I bought that house for $20,000 because I wasn't making the rent, so the landlord sold it to me. And in no time, I owed over 100 on it. I bought it for 20 and owed over 100,000 on it. And I owed Abco Finance and Aetna Finance, and I trying to keep the ship afloat, and I was hustling and banging, and I ended up in front of the judge one more time in front of the judge, and he don't want to see me there, and he's talking to me about locking me up, and through a series of events, why they were starting the court cards or something, and I didn't know anything about AA. I'd been doing BFB myself, So so okay, I'll take it. I may be sick, but I ain't stupid. So I took the A&A side rather than the lockdown side, and the guy come and got me, took me home. I'd been in a fight. Some guy hit me upside the head with a crescent wrench. I had this blood-soaked ear muff and big old turban on my head, and had a beard down to my navel and hair down to my ass, and no underwear, no T-shirt, no socks, traveling pretty light. And I went home, and a guy come and got me from AA and took me home, and I lay down on our old vinyl couch, and I stuck to the couch. And pretty soon she come home, and she'd been to see another lawyer, and he told her I should go to AA. So she said, "You need to go to AA." I let her think it was her idea. I didn't tell her I'd been sentenced there by the judge. And so I said, well, but I thought I'd get to that, and there's a meeting over here. Starts at 8, and it's over at 10 or something. And so I laid there, and pretty soon she come over with her butcher knife and stuck this butcher knife in my face and peeled me off the couch. And I said, what? She said, we're going to AA? What the hell, She had the knife. I got up and went out and got in our Pinto station wagon. We had a baby poop brown Pinto station wagon that hit a couple of curbs, went down the road crooked, had a hole in the muffler and no reverse. The inside of the wagon had all the dog hair and cat hair and lick and ice cream all over the ends. Looked like there'd been a hog slaughter in there, My kid looked like a wounded animal. She wore one of those hairdos that had like the Leaning Tower of Pizza. Had a can and a half of spray net in it. I fired up a cigar next to her one time, and she turned blue. Had to throw my coat over, man. And my house was painted 4 different colors. Not because I was colorblind, it's because I lost interest easy. And good intentions. And there was a Corvair and an Edsel parked out in my front yard, antiques. And we got an old push start on the old Pinto and pulled up in front of this old church over there. And I looked in this church, had a big AA sign outside, and she looked at me and whipped that butcher knife in my face. She knew I didn't want to go in there, man. I looked in, I didn't want to go. I thought, man, if my friends see me going in there, they'll never have nothing to do with me again. That's low-bottom snobbery, baby. I don't care where you're coming. And she said, what time's the meeting over? And I said, I think it's over at 10. She said, I'm going to tell you something, Ace. If your ass comes out of that door before 10, I'm going to gut you. And so I went to the meeting, and I stayed in the meeting. You can keep me in a meeting if you got a crazy woman circling a perimeter with a 12-inch butcher knife. And I didn't see nothing. I didn't hear nothing. I don't remember anything. I went to one meeting a week for about 4 months and beat the deal at the courthouse. I didn't get a book or a phone number. And I went drunk most of the time. I remember one old guy said, we won't guarantee after tonight you've had your last drink, but we'll guarantee after tonight you'll never enjoy another one. I remember that son of a bitch. I went back and tried to run over him, but I was there at the wrong night. Yeah. But I got drunk because I didn't go there to change anything but the conditions in my life. I didn't go there to change my life. I went there to change the conditions in my life, and the conditions changed. And that was sometime in 1970, and I went in and out of AA from early 1970s to 1976. I went to over 500 AA meetings drunk, and I never got kicked out of one because I never said anything. I just lurched around the perimeter, and nobody come up and said, I know your problem, come go with me. They didn't give me a phone number, didn't get a book. I didn't work the steps. I didn't get a sponsor, all the tools. I didn't pray. I drank because that's what I wanted to do. I didn't care. I drank when I went to church. I drank when I went to the movie. Why shouldn't I drink when I go to AA? I drank when I went to AA. And, you know, sometimes I'd get mad and I'd go outside and sit. If you really get mad at your group, go outside and sit and listen to them laugh in here, and you can sit out there drunk and think what a bunch of goof plastic people they are. Bunch of plastic people out there trying to act like they're having fun, and it's all baloney. Fun's over with. Yeah. It was over. I had a court case in L.A. County, San Bernardino County, San Diego County, Riverside County, Orange County. Had about 6 different lawyers. And had all these posted bond, and had all this money I owed, and I run out of friends and enemies at the same time, man. I mean, I owed about $250,000 for stuff I didn't even have, and I had people wanted a couple of different. You know, I was doing my 3rd degree proficiency. I was trying to hustle a rich uncle, so I was going to join the Masonic Lodge. I was doing my 3rd degree proficiency in the Masonic Lodge the same night I was prospecting in the old L.A. chapter of Hell's Angels. Now that's, just be sure you don't get your verbiage mixed up, baby, or you're dead. I was very confused. And, but I did a lot of speed, so I could switch. And anyway, some people offered me an opportunity to make some money, which I needed, and they gave me an opportunity to drive a vehicle full of cocaine to San Francisco, and I didn't have anything else to do, and so I said okay, and I got in the vehicle and drove it up, you know, headed out of L.A. and stopped somewhere up there and got a quart of whiskey, and I drank a half a quart of whiskey, and I thought, I think I'll just steal this cocaine, and so I pulled off up there and went over towards Maricopa and Taft and Bakersfield. Anybody know where that is? The world's got an asshole. It's over there, ain't it? But it's a good place to hide, and so I went over and hid that Coke, and then I drank the rest of the whiskey and forgot where I hid the Coke. So that's how I know I'm an alcoholic, not an addict. But I sobered up, and it dawned on me, I forgot where I hid all this Coke, and I'm not in San Francisco. I'm in Taft in a barracks where you can get a room for $50 a year. It was December of 1975, and I was in a lot of trouble. And so I hid out in there and tried to stay drunk and loaded from sometime in December of 75 until first part of May. And I couldn't stand it anymore. I couldn't die. I wasn't living. I didn't know what to do. And I came back to AA, because that's what happens to you if you don't die. You have to come back to AA. I knew that. You got to come back to AA. If you go get drunk again, you're going to have to, if you don't die, you're going to come back to AA. And I came back to AA one more time, and some people captured me and did something that had never been done, as far as I know, except initially when I was born, I suppose. They detoxified me. I'd never been detoxed. They detoxed me. They locked me up and didn't give me nothing. I said, how about some Valium or some hard candy or something? And, no, you're going to detox completely. Nothing, nothing. Eat a banana and have some water. You need potassium. Eat a banana. Shut up. Eat a banana. And they locked me up for a couple of months and detoxed me. And I tell you what, I've had some bad days in the last 28 and a half years, but I never want to detox again. Ever. That was bad, bad, bad. I never have forgotten that. And somehow I made it through it, and you know, they told me I had to get a book, and I had to get a sponsor, and I had to work the steps, and I had to do all this crap. And I said, what's a sponsor? A friend? And they said, no, if you want a friend, get a dog. You know, my dog hated me. So they assigned me this guy to be my sponsor, and I said, I hate you. He said, good, the feeling's mutual. He got me the detox, and he had an old van, and he had a bunch of plastic milk crates in the back of it, and got me and 3 or 4 other newcomers, and he said, get in the back and grab a crate and hang on. And he took off, and we were sliding around back there. he slammed on the brakes, and I slid up between him and whoever the other goof was in the captain's chair. And I said, I beat a man to death with my bare hands for less than this. And he took off, and I slid to the back, and a 300-pound goof newcomer fell on top of me, and I wanted to kill him, but I was crying. And he took me to my house and said, go in there and shut up and don't tell her anything. And I said, if I don't tell her anything, who's going to tell her? Somebody's got to tell her. And he said, it ain't going to be you, babe, and I'm going to be back to get you. And I went in and I knocked on the door, and she came to the door. And I said, I got to go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous for the rest of my life, bitch. What are you going to do? And she said, well, I'm going to go to Al-Anon. The kid's going to Alateen. The dog's going to Alley Dog, and the cat's going to Alley Cat. What are you going to do? And I didn't do nothing but go to AA, and I started going to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. And 52 days sober, I remember where I hid the coke. Yay! That's my first spiritual awakening. And I went to the phone, called some people up, and said, I know where it is. And I didn't ask my sponsor if I should, or flush it. And I didn't ask 3 newcomers to go with me. I called the people it belonged to, and I said, I'll bring it. I'll get it there. I got it there and delivered it. And they said, don't call us. We'll call you. And I walked away from there. And that was the first time in my life that I walked through a wall of fear, sober. And I found from that day on that every good thing in my life is preceded by a wall of fear. I must walk through those walls of fear. I couldn't escape it. I had to do it. I tell that story for several reasons. But first of all, in the book where it says your enemies will welcome you, be careful. Okay? Be careful. And at any rate, I gave their stuff back, and I started doing things. I had to get sober, stay sober. Had to change some places I went. I had to pay back a lot of money. I went home, had to stay in that house. I was married. They told me I had to make amends to my wife and my family. And I was crazy. I wanted to drink all the time. I wanted to drink and use all the time. I'm a type 4 alcoholic. When I lock me up and you take the booze and dope away from me, that doesn't mean I don't want to drink and get loaded. I wanted to drink and use all the time. And when I got out of that detox, there was 39 people in there with me. And today I'm the only one that is still sober. And they were certainly better people, better looking people, richer people, gooder people. I was certainly the one picked least likely to stay sober. So screw the vote. Hey? And this isn't a popularity contest. I didn't come here to be popular. I came here to get sober. And I hung on. I must have wanted to stay sober more than those 39 people. And a lot of them died drunk. Some of them died sober, suicide. And I've had to stay sober and do it one day at a time. And 3.5 years sober, I'd worked the steps. I'd been intergroup. I'd been world service. I'd been chairman. I'd been, secretary. I'd been everything you could be because I had a lot of energy. And they made me do that. I'd cleaned the cups. But at 3.5 years sober, I was insane. I was just, I followed my sponsor around everywhere. I didn't know what to do. My sponsor would put me in a corner in the meeting hall, and he'd stand in the other corner, and he'd get newcomers and say, if you go back out, you end up like him. And he's as good as you'll ever be. And I didn't know what. Saturday mornings were terrible for me. I'd wake up, and I think, who in the hell am I? Who am I and where am I going? And I think, well, I'm from Texas. So I go put my Levi's on, my boots, and I get my vest on, my cowboy hat, and get in front of a mirror and do a couple of shit outies. And she'd run over and call her Al-Anon sponsor, and I'm going to the meeting, and I'd go outside and get my pickup and head down the street, and I'd hit a light. And no, I'm not really, cowboy. So I'd turn around, and I'd go back, and I'd say, I'm a biker today. And I'd go in there, and I'd get my leathers on, and I'd get in front of the mirror and do a couple of rib-ups, and run out and kiss her goodbye. She'd still be talking to her sponsor, and I'd go out and get on my Harley. I'm going to ride that Harley right up some old-timer's ass. And I'd get down there, and I'd get close to the meeting, and I'd look at myself in the mirror, and no, I'm a marshmallow. So I'd turn around, and I'd go back home, and I'd go in and take my leathers off, and I'd put on my 3-piece suit because I was going to meetings where 3-piece suiters went, and you have to have $75 words if you go to 3-piece suiters. And I got the dictionary, looked up some big words, and recited them in front of the mirror. And I run out and kissed her goodbye, and went out and got in the car and headed down the street. And I blocked from the meeting. I forgot the big words. You can't go in the meeting with a suit on with big words. And I come back and take my suit off and put my sweats on and go out and kiss her goodbye and jog to the meeting. That's why newcomers are tired when they get to a meeting. They've had 3 or 4 identity crises. Her sponsor said, how many people live in that house, for God's sake? So, well, he's got it down to 4. When I got here, I could have posed for a family portrait. I had so many personnel. I went to a meeting, and I'm standing in a meeting, and I had so many guns on me, if you'd have bumped into me, there'd have been a mushroom cloud. A guy gave me a grenade. I had trouble driving on the street with people cut me off. And Bob, the cop over in Covina, gave me a grenade. It was a dummy grenade, but I carried it around with me. I just stand in the old Lano Club down in Anaheim with my grenade. I was hemorrhaging out of every opening in my body. And I'm sober. And, a guy come up next to me, the weirdest looking guy you ever seen. He wasn't short enough to be a midget. He wasn't tall enough to be a man. He had shorts on and he had thongs on and he painted his feet black so it looked like he had socks on and his hair was all everywhere. And I'd seen him in the meeting the night before and he was a treasurer and they asked for a treasurer's report and he stood up and said, I stole all the money and I'm not giving it back. And here he is standing next to me and I said, what do you want? And he said, will you be my sponsor? God, I must have made God really mad. I said, here, hold my grenade. I went over to my sponsor. You see that guy over there? He asked me to be a sponsor. And my sponsor said, I know, I sent him over there. Said, you go over there and tell him you'll be a sponsor and do exactly what he says. That don't even make sense to me today. But when they say shit like that, don't question them. They get mad and the little vein in their forehead pulsates. I went back over and said, give me my grenade. At that time, I had an AA car. About 3 years sober, you need an AA car. I had a big Mark IV Lincoln, had a hood longer than a whore's dream out there, man. Had AA car, personalized license plate, AA car. And this guy, he says, I want to go for a ride in your car. You know, all right, good, yeah. All right, well, you go out that door, I'll go out this door. I'll meet you at my car. He said, no. And he grabbed my arm and we walked over the door and a couple of guys I knew. And then he tells him, that's my new sponsor. And he points at me and I don't tell people I'm your sponsor. And them guys said, boy, it's going to be fun to watch you two grow. And I got that guy in my car and he'd say, man, I did some sick stuff, man. How about this? And he'd lay some sick crap on me. I said, hey, that ain't nothing. I'd tell him some of my stuff. One morning I picked him up. He said, I know you lied to me last night. I said, really? How do you know that? He said, because it's physically impossible to do what you said you did. I tried it. We'd go to meetings and we'd hear the spiritual giants and we'd sit in the front row so we could, little God, would rub off on us and we'd get out in the car and he'd say, we need a miracle. Like what? He said, a parting of the water or a burning bush or something. I was thinking if I had some lighter fluid, I'd torch a hedge over here. Had a .45 automatic in a glove box. I run around in chamber, stuck it upside his head, and I said, I'll count to 10, you pray. If in so doing I don't feel like I have a floating resentment, decide to pop a cap on your ass, you just done step 3. So he mumbled along, and I laid the gun down. Hammered down, put it back in the glove box. He jumped right out of my car, went back in that Alano Club, and showed my sponsor that ring on the side of his head where I put the barrel of that gun. Rap finked on me. Told my sponsor I put a gun in his head, made him do step 3. And my sponsor said, yeah, I know, ain't he spiritual? Well, I tell you what, we're all 3 still sober. We're all 3 still sober. And that guy come over to my house one day, man, knocked on the door, and he was crazy. He had a big book in his hand, paper sticking out everywhere, and his old car parked in my driveway, and it looked like one foot was hung in the concrete, and the rest of him was headed for Tijuana. And I said, what do you want? What do you want, man? And he said, I want to work the steps like you did. I'm trying to remember how in the hell I did them. I know I did them. So, well, the first step says, we're powerless, so come on in. And I know my life's going to be unmanageable because you're going to be here a while. You're crazy and I'm crazy because we understand each other, so we must be on step 3. He said, you ain't going to put that gun up on me, are you? No. Go in the kitchen, get down on her knees in the kitchen and get the big book out. And he cuddled up underneath my arm, and I had that tingling sensation there and questioned my sexuality for a minute. cat walked by and looked funny at me. He jumped up and said, now I want to do my 4th step. And I said, you're supposed to have that done when you get to your sponsor's house. And he threw a bunch of blank paper in front of me, and he said, I can't read or write, so I'll talk and you write. And he threw a pencil down there, and I started writing. And he's talking. And then he said, you ever do anything like that? I said, yeah, I did some stuff like that. Matter of fact, when I did my fifth step, more will be revealed. And I had some things that came up, and I knew he couldn't read or write, and God was in the room because we invited him, so I put some of my shit in his. Hey, God don't care. When he sends the trash bucket, throw it in. Don't carry it no more, baby. Put it in there and burn that one. We burnt that one. Hallelujah. And he jumped up and kissed me on the cheek and said, I love you, and ran out in the front yard and waved real big to me and the neighbors and went on down the road. And he's still sober, and I'm still sober, and that's the magic of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you're looking for something else, it ain't here. Hey, don't look for something that ain't here. One drunk helping another drunk. That's it. I've been doing that ever since. I never have worked on my relationship with my wife. I've worked on my relationship with my God, and my wife has been fine. I worked on my relationship with my God, and my daughter's been fine, and my granddaughter. My father went to Alcoholics Anonymous when he was 62 years old, and he just died last year. He was 89, and he had almost 28 years sober. And I had about 14 months of seniority on the old man, and I never let him forget it, But we worked the steps together. We made our amends together, and it took a long time because we had some real problems to work through. But because he worked the steps and I worked the steps, then we were able to do that. And he died last November and left me a lot of money. I want to pass that on so that you know that the amends worked. I didn't just do it to get his money. I did it, and he left me the money. See? I had to pay all that money back. 2 or 3 years sober, I had to pay $250,000 back. And I didn't have anything to show for it. And I paid it back. I went to work, and I paid it back. I didn't have an overwhelming good feeling because I did it. I did it because I didn't want to drink, and I did it. And my wife went to work and paid the bills and never deprived me of the privilege of making my financial amends either. And I paid that money back. And I have absolutes in my life that are just absolute tonight as they were when I sobered up. The violence had to stop. I haven't hit anybody since May 11th, 1976. It had to stop. And in order to stay sober, I was a rager. I could get so into rage that you could hand me a drink, and I'd drink it, and I wouldn't even realize it. And that had to stop. I haven't written a hot check since May 11th, 1976. And I haven't cheated on my wife since May 11th, 1970, nor has she cheated on me. See? Trust, that put trust in that relationship, something we knew nothing about. The curse of a thief is that he can't trust himself. And they'd say, trust God, clean house, and work with others. But I wasn't trustworthy. I had to do something in my life that made me trustworthy. And I started being faithful to my wife, and she was faithful to me, and we developed that relationship of trust. Fell in love again, and we've been married, like I say, 45 years. She's my wife, she's my friend, she's my buddy, and she's not my sponsor, and I'm grateful for that. And my daughter, it took 8 years, 8 years sober before my daughter and I could sit next to us, each other, and not know that there was still things left undone. But 8 years wasn't too long to wait. And my daughter had a dream, and she was a beat down like a little wounded animal, and she went to Alateen, and the Alateens encouraged her to pursue a dream, to look beyond where other people feared to go. And when she was, I think 14 years old, she asked me for some money or whatever, and she went and enrolled in a modeling school. And the Alateens encouraged her to pull her hair over her face and do things, and she did. I was just going to AA and staying sober, and Sue was going to Al-Anon. She'd take care of her, but she went to modeling school. She had a dream to be a model. She ended up being a model, and she modeled for a number of years, 10, 12 years, all over the world. Finally decided to go to Milan, Italy, and 18 years ago went over there and modeled, and was a very successful model, and met a young Italian man over there, and they got married, and lives there in Milan and has lived there for a number of years, and they have a daughter. I have a little 6-year-old girl, and my granddaughter's glad to see me. And My daughter brought her all the way here so that I could develop a relationship with my granddaughter. My granddaughter wanted to see me, and my daughter wanted her to. The forgiveness that we had. She wanted her daughter to get to know her pappy, and we have a good relationship. I'm very blessed. My daughter can call the same phone number and get her mother and dad. I never take that for granted, that we've stayed together. I never take that for granted, but we've worked our ass off for that. We didn't just get it because it was the right thing to do. We've stayed together through thick and thin. I have had more surrenders in sobriety, more pain in sobriety than I ever had out there, because I had to go through it sober. I had to go through it sober. I had nothing to anesthetize it. I had to stand up and be accounted. All my life, I wanted to be the meanest man on the face of the earth. And I tried through anger and violence and rage, all kinds of facades, to be the meanest man on the face of the earth, because I was a scared little boy that just grew up to be a scared little boy. Fear was my partner. Fear is an amazing thing. To some people, fear, they hunker down and you can't get them to move. To other people, fear is an adrenaline. For me, fear was an adrenaline, and I drove fear like a fast car. And when I sobered up, I had to stand still and be counted. And I had to do the next right thing. And I had to learn that there is a right way to take care of a wrong. And I had to stand up and be accounted for. And today I'm the meanest guy in the world. I am. I'm that guy. I'm the toughest guy on the street out there. Because he's that guy that wakes up in the morning, get up, take a shower, put clean clothes on, go in, put his arm around his wife and say, I love you, baby. Don't have to kick the cat, the dog. Get in the car, go to work. Don't have to flip the crosswalk lady off. Go over there at work, do your job. Don't bitch. Just do what they tell you to do. At the end of the day, whistle blows. Get in that car, go down the street, go home, take a nap, get up, come to a place like this and laugh and cry and kiss them goodbye. It takes guts to do that. See, I didn't know how to do that. It takes guts to do that. And I'm not talking about a macho thing. You ladies got to understand your body ain't your meal ticket anymore either. Same deal. Same deal. And I had to stand up and be accounted for. You betcha. You betcha. And today I can walk down that street out there and I hold my head up. I don't crawl before anyone. I answer to a power inside of me that I choose to call God. If talking about God offends you, well, that's too bad. I'd much rather offend you than God. I offended him way too long. It's real simple for me, and it works, and it works. And, you know, I've had a good day, and I hope you have a good evening. Thank you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected. even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.